Howdy, folks. Actually, this fan's rather loud. Hang on a sec. That's better. Apologies. Poor start. Welcome. It's 10 o'clock, and this is Unhindered by Coding. I'm Nick McPhee. Be here for 2 hours doing some programming, trying to solve some problems. Hello, it's Itsu. Welcome to see you. Glad to see you again. So we're working on the ice-repos project, and I stumbled into a swamp. And we don't necessarily have to resolve the swamp today, because there is at least one other piece to build. But the swamp is near unto us, and we are going to have to deal with it soon. So I do want to talk a little bit about it, and what our options are, and see where we want to go, because I'm probably going to have to do some homework regardless, and having a sense of what our best options are would seem to be reasonable. So the project in question, let's see, go here. The idea is, so archiving individual repositories one at a time through the web interface is totally doable, but it's quite slow. You have to click through a bunch of stuff, and you have to type the whole organization repository name in a confirm box. So in classes, I might have 50 plus repos I'd like to archive, and to do those one at a time that way is really not feasible. So I mostly haven't done it in the past. So I thought it would be cool to build a web app that would let me do that. So I can go to the web app, and I can enter the organization, and I can get a list of the repositories in that organization. So this is for a course 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, that has, I think, 55 repositories. It's currently paginated only 3 to a page, because it made debugging and understanding the pagination a little easier. You would realistically want larger pages. And the idea is that you could click through the repositories, have a look, decide which ones you might want to keep. Those are already archived. Maybe you want to keep this one for some reason. And then there'd be some big kind of review and submit button that doesn't exist yet. And you'd hit that, and you get a list of all the repositories that you looked at and had checked, or left checked, because the default is checking, on the assumption that if I'm doing this, I probably want to archive most, if not all, of the repositories in a organization. So you'd hit the big review and check, you get a list, you make sure you're happy, you'd hit the big, archive all of those, and then it would archive them. And it would have to do that by making one request per repository. So there doesn't seem to be any support in the GitHub API that I've seen for batch archiving repositories. It doesn't seem to be something other people have thought about or needed. And which kind of makes sense. I mean, I think a classroom situation where you have large numbers of repositories is fairly unusual. That's not how these things normally go, and people are usually working on more individual projects that they can choose to archive or not as they see fit. So in this case, if we wanted to archive all 55 repositories, we would have to make 55 individual requests to the GitHub API saying archive this one, and now archive that one. Now, as we saw, I don't know if I can find it again. Oh yeah, look, 7. Some of these have already been archived. One student went through, I think, and maybe, actually, I guess only 2 of these were archived. This one's not. Yeah, a student went in, and I think at some point, again by hand presumably, archived all of their repositories from this semester's course. So there are these sort of odd islands of previously archived repositories, but the bulk of the repositories in this organization are not archived. So we would, if the student hadn't done anything, we'd have 55-ish of them requests to make. If this, with the student having gone through, in this case, I'm guessing we might have 40 to 45 repositories that need to be archived in this organization. Now, I had hoped, and this is where it's about to get all broken, I had hoped / assumed, not really thought very hard, I had hoped that I would be able to deploy this on GitHub pages, and it would just run as a standalone single page web app, and I wouldn't need any server infrastructure. I wouldn't have to actually build anything to support the existence of this. That GitHub pages would do everything I need. Well, that is turned out to be maybe not true. And the problem is we are going to have to authenticate the user. Well, there's going to have to be some kind of authentication, because right now there isn't any, and that's fine because we can read the organizations that I've been putting in are public organizations, and so anybody can read the list of repositories in those organizations, so life is fine. But if we want to actually archive anything, we have to be authenticated, because obviously we don't want random people archiving our repositories. We need to have some kind of control over that. I had, without really thinking about it, just kind of assumed I would be able to make that work in a GitHub pages deployment. And it turned out not so much. And the problem is that GitHub, by default at least, wants you to have a server that will manage the client secret and get the tokens, and for OAuth. And so let's back up a little bit, because there's actually a few options on the GitHub side before we even get into what options we have elsewhere. So GitHub has two main categories of things. There are GitHub apps and there are OAuth apps. And it's clear that they kind of prefer that you use GitHub apps, actually. However, let's see, the GitHub apps are managed by organization owners. So you attach a GitHub app to an organization. Once it's there, it can be used by anybody who has appropriate access to that organization, but an admin in that organization has to actually attach it to the organization. Now, for just me, that's no big deal. I create all these organizations for my classes. There's no reason I can't attach a GitHub app to my organization and then use it. And I think that if we use a GitHub app, the authorization problem becomes not as much of a problem. Like, we don't need a server, I don't think, anymore. I think we can just run it as the GitHub app, and it will run in GitHub's infrastructure, and I don't need a separate server anywhere. I don't actually know that for 100%, but I'm pretty sure that that's true. But it does require that an admin, an organization owner, attaches the GitHub app. Like I said, for me, that's not really a problem, But I could imagine students in classes totally unrelated to me, other institutions, etc., wanting to archive their old projects. And they might have a dozen repositories in a class. It doesn't seem unlikely to me. And archiving all those one at a time would be tedious. It'd be nice if they could be like, oh, I'll use ice-repos to do that. But then they've got to contact whoever owns the organization, say the faculty member, and say, hey, would you add this random GitHub app to the organization so I can do this? And the faculty member maybe does and maybe doesn't. I mean, it gets complicated at that point. And so I had assumed, I had been focused on OAuth apps where users authorize those without the need for an admin to get involved. And then the app can act as the authenticated user. And that's what I wanted to do. I wanted my app to be able to be, hey, I'm Sally. I want to archive Sally's repositories. That seemed like a good thing. The problem is, if you want to do an OAuth app, you really have to have a server somewhere, because authenticating against an OAuth app, you have to, I think I can get to this, authorizing right here. So the standard web application flow, and there's another flow we'll talk about in a second, is your client redirects users to GitHub, where GitHub's like, log in. And then the trick is, in doing that, you have to provide a callback URL that has to be running on a server somewhere that GitHub is going to send you back to. And the server is going to have to turn some authorization information into access tokens. So somebody's got to be able to have this conversation with GitHub about tokens. And I think this has to be something other than code running in the client. Essentially, they don't want your client secret, which is a key part of the conversation, to be in something that's running in browser, because then it can be trivially extracted. And that's an obvious security problem. And so they're saying, well, let's not do that. Let's not even allow it. So there is an OAuth flow in the OAuth documentation, or the standard, that would let you do this without a server, but GitHub explicitly doesn't support that. So that isn't going to be a thing. So if we just use the web application flow, which is the kind of default approach for GitHub, we have to have a server of some sort. And there are some options there. Isitsu, who's here in the stream, hello Isitsu, has suggested a way that we might be able to make that work. So we'll have to talk about that. And the other option, let's see, device flow. There is this thing called device flow, and it's possible that we could make it work. They talk about it in terms of headless apps such as CLI tools. Looking at it, I feel like we could probably make this work. So you get a authorization URL that you give to the user. You send the user there, and they have to enter a verification code And then after we do that, the app will be able to we'll get a token and be able to work with that token. And so I think there we don't have to have a server. So we could possibly go that route. The one thing that worried me, can I find it quickly? Down in the right, no, not here. That's about the polling, rate limits. So once the user submits the verification code, there's a rate limit of 50 submissions in an hour per application. So I read that as being, we will only be able to submit 50 API requests per hour. If that's true, then that's problematic, because we're going to need a few requests to set things up. In fact, like right now with the pagination, if I look at every page, I'm going to have 19 requests minimum, one per page. Now, you wouldn't paginate with 3 per page, and the maximum that GitHub allows is 100. So we could, in most cases, probably do this with 1 or 2 for my classes. Requests, I guess if you were a huge institution with classes of 400 people, maybe it would take more, but a handful of requests there should be enough. The bigger problem is that every archive is going to require a separate submission. And if we have over 50 archives, or even over 40, 45 archives to repositories to archives, then we're going to hit the rate limit. And so that's kind of sad. So I had thought maybe the device flow, and this was suggested by Ellis Valentiner on on Twitter, and it seemed kind of promising. I'd initially ignored the device flow because I just kept seeing CLI and thought, well, that doesn't really apply to me. But reading through a little more carefully, it was like, oh, that could work. But the rate limit problem seems to be kind of bad. So that's an issue. Poop. Now another option, if we decide that device flow won't work, so we could go with Webflow, with GitHub Apps instead of GitHub OAuth. We could go here and decide we are going to just make it a GitHub app. It's not going to be as convenient for people, but it solves my problem. My problem goes away. Or we could decide that we really want OAuth. And then we've got 2 choices. We can go with device flow and hope that the rate limit isn't a problem, which many times it won't be, but many times it will, right? This is where it gets tricky. So like if I go to S22, that semester only had 13 students. And, well, we still had, that'd be 48. So there are 48 repositories here. So that's still enough to get me in trouble. And then for a larger class, obviously the numbers get bigger. So that rate limit could well be a problem. The third option then would be to stick with the web application flow and have some kind of server infrastructure to manage the authentication tokens. And Izitsu suggested in the Discord, because I sort of figured out that this was going to be bad, last night. I spent a fair bit of yesterday looking at authentication finally. I'd been kind of putting it off thinking, oh, it won't be that bad. And then I realized we were getting close to the point where we were going to have to do something about authentication. And so I spent some time yesterday, actually over the weekend and yesterday, looking into it and sort of realized that, oops, we had a problem, Houston. And so I posted something on Discord about this yesterday, and Azitsu suggested that a possibility would be something like Cloudflare workers. And Cloudflare workers give us serverless code similar to like AWS Lambda, et cetera, et cetera. So we basically write some code, stick it up. They will deploy it on demand where it needs to be run. And their rates are exciting because the first 100,000 requests each day are free. And I should be so lucky as to have 100,000 requests in a day on ice-repos. I'm pretty sure I would run into rate limiting issues on GitHub's end before I would hit 100,000 requests per day. So this would be totally feasible from a cost perspective. And if we wanted, and there's edge storage built in. This workers KV, which is a simple key value store, would probably do what we want for storing tokens and keeping an eye on that kind of stuff. So I think this would be totally feasible, and there is a Rust version of this. So you can write your whole worker in Rust, and there are two key constraints to this, neither of which should be problematic in our case. One is the Rust has to compile to WASM. So there are some libraries that you couldn't use because they rely on C code, for example, that you can't compile to WASM. But we've been building the whole ice-repos thing in WASM land, and I haven't run into any issues there. And I'm expecting the worker to be really simple, basically just enough logic to be able to manage the authentication stuff. It might be where the archiving requests might go from the client to a worker to GitHub instead of straight to GitHub. I don't know yet. I haven't really thought very hard about that, and I don't know in particular what the authentication components of that would look like. I think we can go straight from the client to GitHub because I think once we have a token that the web worker will give us, then the client's got everything it needs to be able to talk directly to GitHub. So I think the worker only has to be the callback URL when people authenticate and provide the token to the client when the client needs it. And I think that's all that needs to happen. And so I think that part's no problem. And then that also means I don't think the other thing is an issue. There is a limit of 1 megabyte on image size. And again, because we're not looking to have a big, complicated app, I would kind of think we might stay under a meg without doing hardly anything. But there are obviously a ton of things we can do. We can strip out symbols, and there are various tools we can use to make our Rust executable smaller. So I don't suspect that'll be a huge issue. I don't really know. So the options are, I'm actually going to write this down. I'm just going to make a new thingamadoogie here. Options for GitHub authentication. And I'm just getting rid of that. Oh, go away. Boom. And just give me a simple text box. We can have hello, why are we being weird? No, there we go. So we could do GitHub App must be connected to org by admin. So that's a bummer. Oh, but probably easy to authenticate. No server. We can do GitHub OAuth with device driver, with device flow, individual authentication, no server, only 50 submissions per hour. GitHub OAuth with Cloudflare, individual authentication, hopefully simple server, 100K per hour. So I don't know, anybody have any thoughts? I am open to suggestions. My inclination, in the absence of some key observation from the audience here, my inclination is to go with the Cloudflare option. The GitHub option is probably the least amount of work. The GitHub app, sorry, they're all GitHub. The GitHub app option is probably the least amount of work for me, but it feels like it provides less flexibility for potential users. Now, at the moment, there are no potential users other than me. I have no evidence anyone else cares about this at all. There is, for example, there's a GitHub Classroom discussion board. I could go there and say, hey, I'm building this thing. Does anybody care? And I plan on saying something there at some point, but I was kind of waiting till I had at least sort of a basic thing up and running so that it would be more feedback on, here's a thing, it works. How much do you hate it? Would it be useful to you? So, I mean, I could go there and say, hey, if I build this way, does that matter to you? But that's going to be mostly the instructors, and that also assumes that the only people who care about this are in educational settings, and maybe there's users out there that I haven't imagined, because that's entirely possible. Yeah, I totally hear you, Asitsu. I feel like I need to do more reading, and I've done a lot recently, but so it's 10:30. Probably not. Let's not talk about this endlessly. Let's leave this hanging. If you've got thoughts, I'd love to hear about it. The QR code on the left is the Discord invite link. So feel free to join there or get on Twitter. I am at Nick McPhee on Twitter. At Nick McPhee. Boom. Or you could go to the ice-repos GitHub. Do the whole link. https://github.com Nick McPhee ice-repos. You could go there. There's not actually a place to talk there at the moment. I could create something. Or you could just go make an issue and use that as a place to dangle a conversation. That might just be all I do. So I think my inclination at the moment is to go with the Cloudflare thing. I feel like it's not quite overkill, but it's more than I was hoping for in some ways. But the point of this is for me to learn stuff. And I've never used Cloudflare. And I've never used Rust in a serverless function setting. I've done a little JavaScript in AWS Lambda once before. But I actually have an interest in another context, in a research setting, in potentially using Rust in a serverless setting. So it would be maybe interesting to see how this works. And so, and the fact that I think the server will be really simple and that we get 100K requests an hour for free seems like it would do what we need. And so I'm kind of leaning that direction. Yes, exactly. More Rust and more WASM. It seems to fit the project well. So I'm kind of leaning that direction. I don't think I've talked about this enough now that I think we probably don't have to decide today. I think that I doubt we'll finish the review and submit page in an hour and a half. So I think my inclination is let's focus on the review and submit page now. And then between now and Saturday, if people have thoughts, please share. And I will do some more homework and try to make a decision either before or early in Saturday morning's session where we come back to ice-repos. So there we go. Let's actually call that quits. We've talked a lot and actually write some code. Actually, I'm going to make note, though, that I sort of lean toward this one. Nick is currently on 20 SEP, leaning towards this approach. Boom. Okay. Well, that's exciting. We talked a whole lot there. So where are we here? If we want to program, we need a review and submit page, which actually may take us a while because we actually haven't had a second page anywhere. So we don't have any interesting routing happening at the moment. So I think this little bit right here is what I was thinking of as a possible placeholder for that. Although I think I'm actually going to change the name to review and submit. Review and submit. if I bring that back, now that's going to fail because this doesn't exist. And actually it shows up down here. Yeah, so this will need to be review and submit. And this will need to be review and submit. And now that's going to blow up because this doesn't exist. So we don't have a component for that. And probably want that to be somewhere else in the components directory. In fact, this whole homepage component probably ought to be in the components directory. And what you seem to see a lot is that main is literally just start the app and then all the components are somewhere else. But we'll put review and submit over in the components neighborhood. Review and submit.rs. That's going to need to be a mod. Pub mod review and submit. And am I correct in assuming, for people that know more Rust than me, that there isn't a simple way to just like star all of this stuff, like say grab everything in the directory? I mean, I don't mind listing them here, but it does seem mildly tedious. So, but I don't know if there's, I haven't looked into it, but I don't know if there's a way to sort of make that less weird. So now this is not happy because, oh yeah, right. So we're going to have to have the review and submit, review and submit. And that doesn't work because it doesn't exist. Cool. Okay. So I think that pushes that lump over to here. And so now we have, I don't remember what do things look like. It's that. Boom. HTML, bang, empty. This is review, selected, archive, repositories to archive, and submit archive requests. And for the moment, we will only log that we're going to archive something because we don't have the authentication stuff sorted out. But we can at least then see if we would have made the right authentication request. Okay, so we're gonna have to import some stuff to make all this work. So now, does everybody compile? Main does not compile. Why does main not compile? No review. Oh, it's because I still call it organization entry. Copy paste is a terrible thing. Now everything compiles. Happy day. Okay, so now we're gonna need to, actually we can use organization entry for this as well. So we're gonna need to use store, to get the archive state map. Yes. Do we ever use desired state? Is this? Oh yeah, no we do. That's emitted back up from cards. Is it? Actually? No. Is this ever used? The answer appears to be no. I don't think this does anything. I'm a little surprised that it doesn't yell at me. Oops, come here. I would have expected that to have been fussy, but if I remove it, does it still compile? I have a feeling there was an idea there that never happened. And it looks like we still build, so I don't think we needed that. Okay, but so archive state map is the store that we're using. So we're going to need to get that out of here. And that looked like this, but we'll want the archive state map. Archive state map. Archive state map. Let's see. We're gonna want to be able to look at it. And are we going to want to be able to modify it? I don't know. So I'm going to actually leave both map and dispatch there. So I'm going to call this archive state map. And ASM dispatch. And then if we end up not using one of them, Clippy will yell at us and we can turn it into an underscore. So we have access to the repositories and their desired states. We need to build a view that loops over all of those things. So we did that in like repository list. Right. So we have the nifty thing with the collect. So that would actually be very useful. I like that. So we iterate over, we're going to, in this case, be iterating over keys, because that's what the, or repository IDs, because that's what the keys are on our map. And then we're going to map over those, and then have the HTML for that thing. It's actually going to look very similar to this. Almost identical, in fact. So really, wonder if that really ought to be its own component, because that really is exactly the same. I'm gonna not do that right now, but that's a to-do I'm gonna add. So actually that goes out here. And I'm going to put it to do. This is almost, because I might change it, exactly the same as the code in repository list. They're perhaps should be a new component that just displays a list of repository cards that can be shared between this and repository list. Okay, so we're going to iterate over repositories, but we're actually going to iterate over IDs, so maybe they aren't going to be the same. Well, we could turn a list of IDs into a list of repositories. Yeah, maybe they don't end up being the same. We'll find out. So we're going to need to, instead of repositories.iter, we're going to have archive state map dot keys. Archive state map is unknown. Huh? Okay, maybe that's just because this is confused. So, oh, hey, all of this is bad. Let's comment that out for a second and go back to let's go back to HTML. Bang. So that things compile. So, oh, hey, why are we unhappy here? Oh, because we got to import some more stuff. And we'll have to import archive state map because we don't have that. Doodly 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 doo. Import create repository archive state map. Okay. So now we should have, so this is an RC over an archive state map, and so now we ought to be able to do things like archive state map dot, keys. Do I have to dereference it? I thought it would just automatically do that for me. Yeah, they're like maps doing that. Oh, it's an archive state map, and I don't have a keys thing. Oh, it's not a hash map. I have to say .map to get into it. Now, do I want to have a function that gets me the keys as an iterator or the repositories? Maybe even maybe I want something that gives me a list, an iterator over the repositories that I wish to archive. Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. Pub fn get repos to archive. I don't think that's a great name. See, I don't need to modify anything, so just reference to self, and I think that's all I need. And I'm going to return a iterator or a vector. I feel like an iterator is the thing to do here. That I don't, because otherwise I'd probably like make an iterator and then collect it into a vector and promptly to-iterate on the other end. So I think maybe just keeping it as an iterator is the right thing to do, although I'm happy to hear arguments to the contrary. So then, so I've got map dot self.map dot keys. So what am I going to want to do? I'm going to take the keys. So I really don't need the keys. I want the repositories filtered by, so what are my options here? Contains key, drain, extend, get key value. I wonder if get key value is really what I want. Unless there's, there is a values. Maybe all I need, and values looks like it gives me the key and the value. So maybe values is what I want. An iterator visiting all values in arbitrary order. I hadn't thought about that problem. And it does. The iterator type is just the values. Poop. I'm probably going to want to sort these. But maybe I want to filter them first and then sort them. And I think I can sort on iterators. Maybe not. Rust sort iterator. Oh, do I have to actually put it in a vector? Or pull this crate in? And I really want sort all iterator and new iterator in ascending order. It's not clear how I'm gonna. So maybe. Well, that's a good question. There are two options that occur to me. One is the ID. On the assumption that GitHub assigns IDs in incremental order, sorting by ID effectively sorts by when the repo was created. And that's not an unreasonable sort order. The other order would be, let's see, we have, here we are. We have either updated at or pushed at as possible sort orders. So instead of ordering by when they were created, order by when they were last modified. And I don't know that I have a strong feeling about which would be better. I think I lean toward the ID, but I don't know. Oh yeah, we were in here because we were creating this guy down here. So I could put them back in a vector. So maybe I could just make this return a vector and put them back in a vector and sort them at the end. So I could collect into a vector and then sort as the last step, and I can sort by any of the fields inside the repository. And I'm probably going to need some kind of sorting option unless there is a Rust sorted hash map somewhere. Index map, is that what it's called? Index map. Cool. Hash table where the iteration order of the key values pairs is independent of the hash values of the keys. Order. The key value pairs have a consistent order determined by the sequence of insertion and removal calls on the map. Oh. Oh, that's interesting. And there's a sort by, which is sort of what I was imagining. Oh. And a sort keys. Oh, and that would be perfect for sorting by IDs, because we could just say sort keys, and we would get oh, so that would be another possibility. Rust B tree map. Oh, and that's in standard collections even. Perform simple naive linear search. However, we're not ever expecting more than, I mean, like a few hundred would be a lot, and sorting through a few hundred is trivial. Producer items in order by key. So we could do that. I wonder if I prefer this, even though I might just be sorting by ID. I could, this would give me the ability to also sort by other things. And that would be kind of useful, perhaps, if I change my mind. So I kind of think maybe index map seems like a nice thing. I like that. So, come back here. So I need to add index map. And then we should be good. Okay, let's try it. Kill you. Cargo add index map. And I don't know what the dependencies are going to look like. Not too bad. Now, do I need any of these things? I think the answer is no. I think we're good. Yeah, why not? I'll go ahead and reopen that. So now, oh yeah, I wanted. So I'm going to have an index map. Yeah, I thought about that, but there's no guarantee, actually, so it's good that I just started this. The user could go from page 1 to page 9 to page 10 to page 4, and things are going to be added to that map in the order that the pages are loaded by the user's behavior. And that means they're not going to be ordered by ID unless the user happens to just go in numerical order, which frankly a sensible user would, because it would be kind of crazy. But I don't think there's a guarantee that things will be put in any particular order. Yes, you're right. Well, no, actually, so this is an interesting question. If I've never looked at page 11, at the moment, nothing in page 11 is actually going to be in the archive map. And therefore, it won't be in the list of things to be archived. We will have never gone to GitHub and gotten the information about those repositories. So there will be no default to archive them. So in a weird way, we only default to archive things that we have actually downloaded and looked at. So if we've looked at page 5, these two will be archived unless I say different. But if we've never loaded page 15, then these 3 archives aren't going to be in the list, and we're not going to know. Now, I don't know if we like that or not. I mean, that is how it will work. That's sort of the way it behaves right now. But I don't know if that's a good thing. If we don't want it to behave that way, then really when we first load up an organization and we set up the pagination, we probably ought to loop through and download all the repositories so that we can build out the whole map. And we could do that, I guess if we were clever, we could do that sort of asynchronously, so it wouldn't slow everything down to have to load up all the repos before we display the first page. But I think we would have to yeah, that's a possibility. It's just have a next and prev. I thought about that. Because I don't know, I hadn't really thought about it recently, but now that you bring it up, how useful is it having all of these numbers? Other than it gives you a sense of how many pages there are going to be. But on the assumption that in general, if we stick with the default of 30 repos per page, we would rarely be looking at more than 6 pages. So it's not like you sort of be like, oh, I have no idea how far this is going to go. And we could, say the list of the 55 repositories, so we could put some information about how many repositories there are in the display somewhere. So they'd have some idea of how far they were going. So maybe a next prev thing does make more sense. I'm going to actually add that as a to-do. And it would be in paginator. To-do. Instead of, oh, hey, I like that idea. Yeah. So instead of having next be grayed out when you're on the last page, next would become review and submit when you're on the last page. Oh, that's a cool idea. Having buttons for all the pages, instead have just a pair of prev next buttons and maybe some indication of where you are page 3 of 4 when you're on the last page, next becomes review and submit. To sue for the nice idea. Okay, I like that. I think that actually makes a lot more sense. Yeah. Oh, and then you don't really have any way of getting to the review and submit without actually having gone through everything. So that ensures that we've loaded all the repositories. It also ensures they've been added in order, as long as we don't do something stupid with prev. So prevs, when we reload a page, actually, are we dumb about that now? I don't think we are. Like if we go back to a page, developer, do we have some kind of debugging that would tell us? I don't know anymore. Okay, so that's the archive state map. And if we go to, oh, well, we went to 6 apparently. Oh. No, that's not the whole archive state map. Because that's just this page. So I don't know if we have actually, I commented out and or removed a lot of debugging of archive state map because a lot of it wasn't doing anything very useful. But maybe here it would be good to have this current archive state map is, oh yeah, right. So archive state map, archive state map. And actually I like this archive state dispatch. I think it's a better name than what I had over here. Archive state dispatch, like that. Now comment all of that out for a hot second so things will actually build. No, you don't. Oh, yeah, so things will build. Do we build? Yes, we build. Finish building. So I just want to make sure that when we revisit a page, we don't add it to the state map. Oh, but we wouldn't. It wouldn't add it because there'd already be an entry with that key. Well, but we could be going to the trouble of trying to add it, and that wouldn't be good. And it might override defaults. Okay, let's actually so if we come to a page, we will update state for organization. That's gonna do the HTTP request and add stuff. And we do that even if we've seen this page already. That's interesting. So we really don't want to do this if we've seen this page. Which means we probably need some kind of record of which pages we have loaded already and only load a page. So basically, if the page that gets sent in so if current page is where's make button callback? Page number and if the page number equals the current state we return. Otherwise, we make a new state for the repository paginator and set the paginator state to be this. And that's going to cause it to get re-rendered here, and we really want to only do the re-rendering if, well, we only want to do the update part if we haven't seen this page already. Okay. I'm not going to sweat it right now because I want to stay focused on the submit and review thing. But I do think that's going to need to be dealt with. So I think here we want to see if the current page has already been loaded and only do update state for organization if it has not been loaded yet. And it might be that this would just all get simpler if we switch to the Prev Next model. Because instead of having to keep an arbitrary set of pages that have been visited, you could just keep track of which page, what's the highest number page you visited, and if the current page is less than that, then you don't have to load it or something like that. So I think maybe doing this with might make sense to fix this along with switching to prev next UI model. So I feel like somehow switching to that model would simplify some things. So, okay. So I'm going to not mess with that anymore. We're going to come back here. And I think that I like the, oh yeah, right. So now archive state map needs to be not a hash map, but an index map. Index map. Okay. Ooh. And so hopefully if that's just a drop-in for hash map, then so far at least everything ought to still work the way that it did. And yeah, so it looks like everything's good, but now we can use it to sort things here. So this, so we're going to have to set the map to be, what do we say, sort keys? Yes. So sort keys. That doesn't return anything. So we just call sort keys. And now, if we call values on that, we should get them sorted by the key, which in this case is the ID, which if GitHub is just doing incremental numbers, which I think it is based on what I've seen. I'm not sure they promise it though, but if that stays true, then we get the values, and that's going to be an iterator over the repository pairs. So we're going to want to filter repo and to archive, and we just want to archive. So those would just be the ones that we want to archive. And then, oh, I could do filter map, right? Because that would let me extract Rust filter map. That both filters and maps returns the values for which. Oh, that's right. So we can return a some or a none. And that lets us say what values we want, and then it will also do the filtering. Gotcha. Yeah. So that would be a reasonable thing to do. So actually I want to filter underscore map. Yeah, filter underscore map. Underscore map. And it's going to take that pair and it's going to let's see, if toArchive is true, then I want a sum around the repo, otherwise I want a none. Now I bet there's a fancy way to do that that doesn't involve an if, but I don't immediately know what that looks like. So somebody save me here, so I can certainly do if toArchive, then some repo, else none. But that seems, oops, I don't want a semicolon there. I just want to return that. And now we're grumpy. We need, oh yeah, we need to specify what our type is. Item equals actually probably a reference to repository would be the preferred option. And it's still not happy. Do we have to have dine? Yeah, probably. Oh, and this is probably, I've got to do star. Oh, impl. Yeah. I always get that wrong. And the compiler does not like help me. Oh, the sort keys requires a mutable self. So this actually is going to have to be a mute self. So now it seems almost certainly that there's a better way to do this. Having this if here just seems like, I don't know, it doesn't feel very rusty to me. Like there's, but I don't know what the alternative would be. I feel like there's some trick with map or I don't know, something. And did I need the star, or was that just me hacking? I feel like I needed the star. Yeah, I do. Because otherwise it's a reference and it wants an actual Boolean there. Bool then sum. See, that's thank you. I had a feeling there was going to be a thing and you were going to help me. Rust, bool, then sum. Then sum. Oh, hey. So we have then and then sum. So then sum returns some t if Boolean is true or none otherwise. That is exactly what I wanted. Bingo. And then sum takes a function, which I don't need. Good job. Go with Sitsu. Thank you. So this can be, all of that goes away, and we have toArchive, then some repo, and I think that'll be the thing. And it looks like it compiles. That's super exciting. Okay. Oh, and oh yeah, because we're now calling a method, it'll probably automatically dereference it now. Whereas the if didn't have any way of knowing it needed to dereference it. But because we're calling it a method on it, it'll dereference. Oh, good job. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Very cool. That is exciting stuff. It's always fun when I learn something. And you folks are great for helping me learn stuff. Okay, so this sorts by the sort keys, so sorts by our ID in this case, and then we get this iterator over references to repositories, and we only get the ones that we want to archive. And so now if we come back to review and submit, and we come back here and we say get repos to archive, boom, that's an iterator, so I shouldn't need to do anything iteratory to that. And then map repository is a reference. Oh, I don't need to say that. And then we'll HTML bang and repository card. I don't know if we want these whole cards. I guess if this is going to be a long list, this might not be a great way to display them. I think it was a reasonable option when we were deciding what to do, but may not be the best option. Here. And then that, let's see, go away. So that takes care of that. That is then ends the map. That ends that. Collect. Boom. Get rid of that. That won't compile because there is no on checkbox change. That should just be an import. Actually, if I take you out, oh no, because it's going to need it. So we have to do something there. I wonder why that didn't give me that as a thing. Okay, and now it's like, I can't find that, and I need it. So repository list, just to steal a version of that. Oh no, that came through from the repository paginator, didn't it? Yeah, right there. Now, I don't know, we're not going to want the same thing here. And that's going to break all kinds of stuff because we have to import you callback and import desired archive state. Now, so this is just going to be wrong. We're going to have to fix it. But why are we not compiling? What's going on here? Oh, do we have to clone? that on checkbox change. .clone probably. No, that did not do the right thing. So if we go to paginator, there's on checkbox change. Okay, so the problem is somewhere else. Maybe I should figure out this problem first. So this problem is that we can't borrow the state. Is it the state that we're not able to borrow? Cannot borrow data in RC as mutable. So this is not, oh, because this is changing. Oh, because this takes a mutable because set keys, oh, that's annoying. Sort keys is changing the state. Didn't really want to change the thing. I wanted to just get the values out in a given order, but I can see why it wants to just change the underlying piece. Foo. So the change is going to have to happen because of the change. We'd have to use not this, but this dispatch, because the dispatch actually changes things, or lets us actually change things. Oh, fiddle faddle. I mean, is it just as simple as changing this to dispatch? No, because dispatch. Oh, we'd have to do one of those things. Do I have dispatch? There we go. We have to do like a reduce mute. So we'd have to take, but does that return? These change the state, but I don't know if they return something. And that's sort of the question, because I want to return the value. Well, I don't know. We could, Oh yeah, I see what you're saying. Especially if we, so maybe I'm putting too much energy into the sorting. Yeah, okay, I buy that. I think the sorting is causing us grief that we don't need right now. So if I take this out, comment that out, and make this go back to just being referenced to self. Now, that part works. This needs to go back to map. And now all of that works, and we have this on checkbox change problem. Yeah, right. If we just do that, so maybe that's a note to make back here. To do currently not using any properties of index map and may be able to just go back to, well, maybe I should just get rid of index map for now and just talk about, yeah, maybe that's the thing to do. Change this to be tree map so that items will be stored in the order that they are entered. If we switch to the prev next UI model, then repos will be added in the same order that we get them from GitHub, which is probably reasonable. The order they would be entered would be index map. Are you just sort of saying that I was going to change this back to just a hash map, and that we would change to using a B tree map, which would keep them in the same order that they are entered. That was my understanding of what B tree map did for us, is that yeah, the iterators produce their items in order by key. Oh, it's not actually by entry, it's by key. I see. So that's actually, so yeah, what I said here is wrong. Sorted, or will be returned by, in order by key. Key ID in this case. So actually the fact that they're added really doesn't matter. So in fact, if I just switch to B tree map here, I think that actually is a reason. Oops, undo. Put you back. And then let's kill that. Cargo add B tree map. Nope, I didn't like that. Probably. Oh, maybe I don't need it because it's standard collections. I probably don't. So I probably, yeah, just need to remove index map. No. Is it delete? No. Cargo. Build. I guess I just remove. Just do it by hand, I guess. There's not a thing. Oh well. So cargo, Toml, where'd you go? There you are. Index map, get rid of you. Now am I gonna need, maybe not, I don't know. And then come here, change this to B tree map. And then it's not happy. Oh, this doesn't need to be here anymore. And this comment's no longer meaningful. And why are we grumpy? Cannot find B tree. Use standard collections B tree map. Well, actually, B tree map. If I just do that. There. Okay. So that took care of that problem. And then we just don't need this. That's not even meaningful. Why are we grumpy? And now review and submit is still broken. Why is this? So this worked. In repository list. No, let's say paginator. In paginator, I have my thing, and I just pass it in here. And that all seems good. But here, it's all super grumpy. So I was thinking a clone. That totally does not fix it. So am I cloning in the wrong place? So you say that one isn't an iterator. Well, I mean, I guess the problem is that this probably refers to all kinds of things that don't even exist. Well, but does it? So we get the desired archive state. And we use the archive state dispatch to modify the archive state. So actually this does look reasonable. And then, so let's see what it says when you have the clone. Clone. Missing label for property value. What? You're trying to use the property, shorthand property syntax. Only identifiers may be used. Oh. Can we not clone a closure? No, because we clone things like this. Oh, yeah, sure. Yep. On checkbox. Change equals. And then it's happy. Man, I get burned by that all the time. I forget that I can only use the curly brackets if the name is exactly. I'm fine. Yeah. Okay. So now it compiles, and I think that even this checkbox change is probably correct. So if what did I called it ice-repos / review and submit. So I think is like a hack. Oops, I got it. Can I just change URLs and it will magically do the right thing? Actually close that for the moment. So we do that. If we go through like, I don't know, 3 of them. So that should have a total of, oh, and actually we'll say we're not interested in archiving these 2. So there's 3 here, 2 here, 1 here. Now if I go to review and submit, it blew up. Develop JavaScript console. Oh. I wonder if I have to let it route me there. Yeah, I bet I do. Because it probably just loaded a new page. If I don't let it route me there. Okay. So we're actually going to have to build out some of the other stuff. What time is it? Oh, it's 11:45 already. Yowza. So home page. Where do we want the review and submit button to live? That's an interesting question. Well, I'd envisioned it being kind of over here, and in the Prev Next model, it would be part of the paginator. So I think just putting it in the paginator makes sense. So that makes a whole bunch of buttons. And we want another button then. And actually, all of this probably should do that. Button. Paginator button class gives us paginator button class. So it's, we just want button. So we want that. Where was I? La, 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 la. Right here. Class equals button on click equals. So really this is a link thing. I think there's a way I can say that I just want this to go someplace. But that's going to require that I do a little homework. So that will at least look right but not do anything. Oh, yeah, I need quotes. That's better. Whoa. Oh, wasn't done. Compiling. Ooh, interesting. So it dropped it right at the end. Which actually when we have, yeah, I mean, that's probably not where I would want to leave it if I was going to stick with this model, but I think when we go to the Prev Next will just say review and submit, and that'll be fine. So now we need review and submit to go someplace. And there is a way to do that. So you route link, oops, not line, link. So how do we tell it we want to go? On click. Oh, we push. Oh, because the router keeps history stuff. So by pushing, we can back up and we'll go back to the previous page. Oh. Which means there probably is an argument for having the prev next stuff also push routes. Yeah, probably is an argument for that. I'm not going to sweat that right now. Okay. So then we want an on click. That says push route review and submit. And it doesn't like that. Presumably there's an import missing. You router prelude, probably. And now navigator got to come from somewhere. Where is navigator coming from? Huh. The use navigator hook re-renders the component. Or did I just want a link thing? Oh, actually, I probably just wanted this. Yeah. I think that's what I was after. All of the Navigator API I do kind of like the push. Kind of like the push. So why are we not getting use navigator? Why is that not? Oh. We go to the current version. Use navigator. Yeah, look at you. Good job. Okay. So, oh, it's called history now. Or I could just do the link thing and ignore the history. Well, let's try the history. I think this, because I think we're hopefully close. So we just need to change this. So this just needs to become that. And then this needs to become history, I think. And it's no longer reference. It seems to just be route. So route isn't known, which that's being defined back here. No, yes. So we need to import it from out here. Can we do that easily? And does that have to be pub to be visible outside? You think it lives in the U router crate? But we didn't get it from here. So you think use U router route? Oops, router. Nope, didn't like that. So that is my route. That's what I was thinking. So I did not separate. I did separate bin and lib, yes. And currently, this is in main. So it's in the bin. So I have to. Does it have to move into the lib? Can the lib like look at stuff in the main in the bin? Because if there were multiple bins, that wouldn't really make sense. Yeah, so if we move this, probably both of these. I'm guessing? I don't know. Well, let's just move this one for now. To lib. Now that's going to cause all manner of craziness. Okay, that's happy there. Now main is presumably going to be grumpy. I would have thought, but maybe not. Huh. So actually the only thing that isn't happy is this guy here, where we refer to route here. And now it gives me the option, come on, to import crate route. So we need, oh, is that what I need there? No, I don't think so. I think that I just need a type annotation. And the callback is from I don't care. Can I do that? No. It does need to know some. Oh, I could put the type here, I guess, if I wanted to. And then it would figure things out. So this is a mouse event, I think. Okay. That made all that happy, but now main's broken. Which I had expected main to be grumpy because we're going to need to import ice-repos route, yes. Okay. Woo! Everything compiles. Oh, it's 12 o'clock. Does everything actually build here? CSI 3601 S20. Okay. So let's bring you down some. Let's say we won't nope to that one. We won't do that one. And we won't do that one. Review and submit. Nothing happened. Is there some sort of error? No. Okay, it's not working. And I should wrap up. So somehow my on-click is not getting us there. Because we're not changing to that URL when we click our... Oh, that's because I don't have the on-click here. Oh, I guess I can, since it is just on-click, I think I can just do this. Does that work? Come on. I want you to at least do a little thing for me. You can do a little thing for me. There we go. CSI 3601 S20. Let's get rid of that. So it should be 2, 3 total, and 4, 5. So 5 should show up. Oh, look at that. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, there's 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It scrolled to the bottom. So it's not pretty, but it seems to have gotten us here. And oh, that was interesting. If I unclick it, it goes away because we only display things that are listed as being to be archived. So we don't get the ability to click and unclick here. That's probably not good. I think users might be kind of grumpy about that. So I'm going to have to think about how to fix that problem. Maybe just want to do everybody. So let's see. Review and submit. Currently, repositories disappear from the list when unchecked, which almost certainly violates the principle of least amazement. I'll need to look into that. Create a separate compact component and require the user to go back to change the selection. That could be an option suggested by is to not allow the user to change the status here, but instead force them to go back to the repository paginator interface to change the state of a repository. Whoa, go away, go away, go away. If we do that, it would be nice to have a go back button on each repo so we can go back to that repo's page, making it easier, or making it so the user doesn't have to page through hunting for a particular repository. Boom. Something like that. Okay. So I'm going to call that a win for now, because after 12, and I've got 2 flats of native wildflowers and grasses that I'm supposed to start planting today, that I picked up yesterday, and we're turning another piece of our lawn into native plants. And so I have to go out and sit on the ground and dig holes, which with my knee may not be a lot of fun. We're going to have to see how that goes. I'll commit and everything offline so you guys don't all have to watch. Since we've run long. Thank you for being here as always. It is greatly appreciated. Lots of good help and advice. Especially interesting to learn about some of the hash stuff. So we will be back tomorrow night from 7 to 9 doing the evolutionary computation stuff. More fun and excitement there. And then we will return Saturday with 2 streams. Saturday morning we'll come back to ice-repos. I feel like we're probably close on the review and submit business. And that we, with a little luck, should finish that in the first half hour to an hour, which then forces us to deal with the authentication problem. So I will have to do a little homework, and we can talk on Discord about what we think makes the most sense there. And then Saturday afternoon, we'll return to systems lab stuff. I think the Echo client server is basically done. I'm willing to call that finished for now and move on. Unless a colleague and I here decide to actually turn it into a lab itself, in which case I'll have to kind of figure out how to write it up and what the students will have to do. And then I might come back to it for that purpose. But as far as what I needed to learn, I think I've done it. So I'm going to have to make a decision about which other lab I want to move forward on. Got a couple of options. So something like that will happen Saturday afternoon. So thank you all very much. Greatly appreciated as always. And I will see everybody later. Ciao.